The Effects of Positive Reinforcement in the Classroom, presented by Ashley Goggins, Current Trends in Elementary Education, EE 520. The abstract is, students in my school have a high rate of behavioral concerns. My school makes about a third of the district's special education population, and with that, many classrooms have different behavioral concerns that need more positive reinforcement. Studies show that behavior modification techniques have been used to treat children for various problems, such as separation and general anxiety, various phobias, OCD, and more. I have observed the effects of using positive reinforcement with students. However, my school does not adopt one way to use behavior modification in the classroom. The purpose of the study is to evaluate the use of positive reinforcements for behavior modification, opposed to negative reinforcement for behavior modification, and how it affects the student's future in behavioral academic success. The research will test the hypothesis of enforcing positive reinforcement for behavior modification that will reduce the amount of behavioral concerns and increase student achievement. The table of contents. The first chapter will be research problem. Second chapter will be the literature review. The third chapter will be methodology. And the fourth chapter will be conclusion and next steps. Chapter 1, research problem. An introduction to the research problem is behavior modification can be an effective tool for classroom management, especially when combined with positive reinforcement. At my school, Hayden Primary, some teachers have implemented their own behavioral modification programs with great success in their personal classrooms. By focusing on positive reinforcement rather than punishment, teachers have been able to create a positive learning environment for their students. In other districts around us, the results of these programs have been impressive. Students who participate in behavior modification programs have shown improved behavior and increased academic achievement. This is because they are motivated by positive reinforcement, such as praise, rewards, and recognition, rather than the fear of punishment. By using positive reinforcement, teachers are able to create a culture of respect and encouragement in the classroom. This will lead to better relationships between students and teachers, as well as between students themselves. Students will feel valued and respected, which leads to increased engagement and participation in classroom activities. Behavior modification relies on the concept of conditioning. There are two major types of conditioning, operant and classical. One relies on a stimulus and the other involves using a system of reward or punishment. The purpose behind the behavior modification is not to understand why or how a behavior started, but to focus on the change of behavior long term. A statement of the research problem. Enforcing positive reinforcement for behavior modification will reduce the amount of behavioral concerns and increase student achievement. Positive reinforcement has been shown to increase student engagement, motivation, and self-esteem. It can help create a positive classroom environment where students feel valued and respected. However, there's also potential negative effects of positive reinforcements. Some students become way too dependent on external rewards and lose their intrinsic motivation to learn. Others may only exhibit desired behaviors when they know they will receive a reward. This is a lack in consistency in behavior. Some data to support the research. These are math and reading test scores for Blount County schools. You can see at the top that we start off pretty strong in the early 2010s, but it's drastically having a decrease as the years go on. Why is that happening? We all want to say that it's because of COVID, but with behavior modification, it is at an all-time low due to the lack of creating rapport with students that are being taught from a distance. Students are coming back to the classroom, and after missing so much class time in the environment, teachers are facing an extremity of behavioral issues across K through 12 classrooms. An impact on student achievement. Many professionals in the district do not believe in positive reinforcement and see more negative side effects than positive effects. Many new teachers within the district have adopted some form of positive behavior reinforcement in the classroom, such as an individual and whole group rewards, such as treasure boxes, group rewards. Where the miscommunication draws from are the tactics of promoting rewards for simply following expectations, a way to increase positive behavior from a student and in return increase your effort to allow the student and teacher to help meet the needs of the district and state goals to increase test scoring percentages. Engaging students in the learning process is essential for increasing their focus on the course materials and inspiring them to develop critical thinking. Chapter 2, Literature Review. Behavior modification is a psychological approach that involves changing a person's behavior through the use of various techniques. One of the most famous psychologists associated with behavior modification is B.F. Skinner. Skinner believed that behavior could be modified through the use of rewards and punishments. Classical conditioning is one of the most commonly used behavior modification techniques. This technique involves pairing a neutral stimulus with a stimulus that naturally elicits a response. Over time, the neutral stimulus will begin to elicit the same response as the natural stimulus. For example, if a dog began to salivate at the sound of a bell, if the bell is repeatedly repeating paired with the presentation of food. The operant conditioning is another behavior modification technique used to change behavior. This technique involves changing behavior through the use of rewards and punishments. Positive reinforcement involves a reward in behavior in order to encourage it to occur more frequently. Negative reinforcement involves removing a negative stimulus in order to encourage a behavior to occur more frequently. Overall, behavior modification techniques can be effective in changing behavior, but we have to understand the principles of classical and operant conditioning. Individuals can learn to modify their behavior and achieve their goals. Chapter 3, Methodology. This experimental research plan will involve a kindergarten class using positive reinforcement to aid in behavior modification to test if it aids in student achievement and test scores. The positive reinforcement as a form of behavior modification will be used all year, and data will be compared to a classroom that does not use positive reinforcement. The school that I'm going to be using is Hayden Primary School. It has been experiencing declining test scores and non-proficiency among its students. In response to this issue, the school has implemented a behavioral modification program that utilizes positive reinforcement. This approach will aim to encourage students to exhibit behaviors that lead to academic success. Some different aspects of the methodology include population, sample, variables, and a timeline. The population of Hayden Primary School is pre-K through second grade, and in the study, only kindergarten classes will be participating. This group was chosen since the grade level consists of 10 different teachers, and all use a different form of behavior modification. Kindergarten is a year filled with different behaviors and constant growth. With kindergarten students assessed 3 times a year, there should be a huge upward trend of growth. There will be 2 different kindergarten classes the study will focus on. One classroom that uses positive reinforcement as a behavioral modification, and one classroom that does not. A sample is a total of 30 students. Each classroom has 15 students. Each student will be evaluated through behavior charts, Ames Web reading scores, and iReady math scores. There will be a comparison between each student to see if positive behavior match proficient testing or negative behavior match declining testing scores. Some variables to consider. The dependent variable of the study is the proficiency percentages of the Ames Web reading and iReady math scores of the kindergarten students at Hayden Primary participating in the study, as it is expected to be affected by the independent variable. The independent variable of the study is when positive reinforcement is used as behavioral modification in the classroom. There is an increase in academic achievement compared to a classroom that does not include positive reinforcement as behavioral modification. The timeline of the study is students in 2 kindergarten classes are evaluated throughout an entire school year. Students are assessed 3 times in the year, beginning of the year in August, middle of the year in December, and end of the year in May. If the study goes as follows, students will have a stop in growth or a continuous growth within this time. Ames Web reading and iReady math scores and positive reinforcement as a behavioral reinforcement will be linked at the end of the school year in May. Chapter 4, Conclusion. There is a high number of students on the problem-solving team, known as PST. From the start of the year, there is an abundance of behaviors within students. Teachers are having to try different techniques to modify behavior way more than they ever have in the past few decades. With such a surge of behaviors from the start of the year, it does make instructional time more strategic for teachers to ensure all students are learning and on a constant behavioral management field day. The current kindergarten teachers of Hayden Primary School are aware of the study, and 2 teachers are willing to participate. If there are behavioral reinforcement changes in the classroom, it will be important to inform the project manager to ensure that the changes are aligned with the study. The next steps in the study are to ensure that the school as a whole is represented. Data will need to be conducted in grade levels K through 2nd. The same sampling of students throughout the years of their schooling will be very important. We can test how they performed in kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade, and if behavioral modification affected any of their years in the primary school.